public quarantine. The public quarantine basically means that it allows communication between all of the quarantine devices. So this is what I called the self-infecting VLAN. I'll put all of my devices into one place. I'll get into that, quarantine holding place. And my aim is to infect you all. Easy, right? Because those are the soft targets. I have access. So what are we doing here? Also, if you would like to attack the soft targets, not a virus or a worm, if you are a hacker or someone with malicious intents and you want to try to abuse something which is a 0-day and you know that you can abuse it, this is the place for you to be. Because then you can inject whatever you want into that device, say, oh, antivirus is working all in one. Ah, great, antispyware is working as well. Put whatever you want on the device and control the device even if the device passed whatever checks your NAC may have. Other things about the quarantine VLAN. The idea of dynamically assigning VLAN IDs to the port. If you don't know, the way this works is there's a new element which automatically is being assigned to the quarantine VLAN. There are checks that are being done and only then it's being basically taking out of the quarantine VLAN. The problem here is that if you're in a really controlled environment like finance institutes, bank, whatever, your change control people, your audit people really like you because you'll never have the ability to actually deploy this because there's no way whatsoever that the VLAN IDs are going to change for the ports dynamically. Nothing is not going to happen. Also, if you remember, I talked about relying on the infrastructure to provide with a capability which is basic for network access control. This is a good example. If I don't have the switches that allows me to do this, I can't provide with it. So what? I'm gonna buy a solution from a NAC vendor and then I need to go to an infrastructure vendor and buy the switches and I need to see that they both play in the same area. That's not gonna fly because the amount of money that you'll need to invest into making your infrastructure actually capable of working with this is a lot of money, as well as the fact that this is only a per port per device policy. Hubs, you all know them, unmanaged switch. In the US, you go to CompUSA for 30 bucks, you get a 5-port, 10, 100, 1000 D-Link switch. 5-port, really cool. We have like trillions of those at work. Everyone wants one. So whenever I go to the US, hey, bring me one, okay. But at your place of work, you'll find non-managed switches. The switches that you bought 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago and now been pushed to the access, sometimes it happens because not all of us can buy all of the switches all together, and they're unmanaged. So they act as hubs and then therefore you do this against them. Other than that, one last thing I would like to mention is the read-write access unique to the switches in order to do those changes. And again, go to your networking people, they will be more than happy to provide you with that. The private quarantine is the solution in my opinion for that. Basically putting the element into a private silo that prevents others from communicating with it and prevents his communication with the other quarantined elements. This can be actually being done in private VLANs, layer 2 based methods and other things. A good example why layer 3 based quarantine is bad. Inline hardware doesn't actually do a lot if it just blocks the access to other parts of the network. Basically, I'm not allowed, this is allowed. I can try to attack this device and use it as an access proxy to other parts of the network. There are other ways to play with these attacks. Also, when is the quarantine enabled? Only when an element should be assessed, after the assessment or immediately, and the answer is immediately. Because we don't know the device. We don't know what this device holds. We don't know what's running on this device, and we don't know if the user is authenticated, device is authorized, and it's actually happening here. So if you are assessing a network access control solution, then look for this. The device needs to be quarantined immediately, so the risks that may be put by this device to the organization will be minimized. On the enforcement side, basically, I'm just going to go through this fast. There are various ways to do enforcement, layer 3, layer 2, at the switch level. Usually at the switch level, it's only per port per device. You can see the various ways to do this here. The one example I wanted to speak about was the broadcast listener and inline device combo. There's actually a solution that uses that. So basically you have a broadcast listener on the local network and an inline device that works as an IPS on layer 3. The problem is that you need to completely re-architect your network. The inline devices are a point of failure. If you want to have redundancy, 2x the cost. And again, you don't get to identify the device. So the device, not only that the device is not identified, that you can actually bypass the local listener, this particular solution do not even provide with device authorization and do not provide with user authentication. So simply put, if you just manipulate your ARP request and don't broadcast anything to the network, you're happy to basically connect to the network, because the inline device acts as an IPS only. It's not actually integrated with the broadcast listener. So it doesn't actually block access from those IP addresses it sees at layer 3 that weren't actually authorized by the local broadcast listener. Resources, questions? Still just 2 minutes late. Questions? Once, twice? Okay, so thank you all for having me, and enjoy the conference.